So today I'm going to be looking at the exercises that I do for scoliosis. And now, normally when you think of scoliosis exercises, the first thing that comes to mind is the Scroth exercises. And there are other developments of this. There is the C's and other bits and pieces they do in other European countries and focus on. But they're all very Scroth-esque. And Scroth was invented by Katharina Scroth, a German schoolgirl back in the 20s and 30s-ish. And she had polio, which weakens the muscles, and she did lots of strengthening and exercises using the gym equipment she had in her school during the summer holidays, and was finding improvements in scoliosis, and then kind of established the Scroth therapy. A lot of it's to do with stuff where you breathe to get the rotation, and there's lots of stretching on one side, etc., etc. Now, I'm not against Scroth, but it's not really a huge fan of it. The improvements that you got with Scroth at the beginning were magnificent. They're as good as the improvements I get with the ASMI machine. But they're all the good ones you see are on black and white photographs. Because it's back in the 1930s, and lots of the scoliosis patients you're seeing that had those improvements were actually polio patients, and the polio had weakened the muscles. That weak muscles are given the patient's scoliosis, and strengthening those muscles with her exercises got rid of the scoliosis dramatically. Thing is, I think they've pretty much found out that any exercise would have strengthened those muscles, and so I think a lot of the therapy for polio is like putting the legs in braces and keeping the kids from moving a lot, and actually getting them to move and work the muscles was kind of exactly what they needed. We don't really have polio as a thing. I think the scoliosis we mainly get nowadays are trauma injury based, and indeed you can have, there's a video which I got on the website of who actually filmed a young baby dolphin, and that was attacked by a male that was not the dolphin's father, and they tried to kill him, and eventually the mother and a couple of female dolphins were fighting off this large male dolphin. We really weren't doing a very good job of it because the big dolphin is huge, and eventually the other males arrived and beat this fella up, but not before he half killed the dolphin, the baby. But the baby survived, but the baby had scoliosis. So we've actually seen scoliosis happen live on camera, as it were. From a trauma injury, and it happens in animals, in dolphins, it happens in humans as well. Falls, even when you're born with it, your mother might have commonly had a fall during pregnancy down the stairs, car accident, that kind of stuff. So I think it comes from trauma. I'm quite convinced it does. And for me, I kind of find that working, especially working with the ASMI, if we don't use the ASMI, it's probably still the thing to do. This concept of bracing is also quite popular. And again, I didn't have bracing. My back spine was behind my shoulder blade as a teenager. They said I'd be in a wheelchair by 30, which turns out to be a standard line they kind of used to use to frighten the kids into doing the surgery. I think nowadays they tell you your organs are going to be crushed. I said no to it. I could see it was a bit of a black line. But I had this years later. And I should say I've just about made 30. Actually just about made 40 as well. And 50. Stopping now. Nearly getting up to 60 and no wheelchair in sight. So, it was a sales line for the surgery. Now, so this was the main thing that got the job done, the ASMI machine. You've seen this before on million therapy on a million videos that I've done live. We won't go into that today. In terms of the exercise to support this, well, there's a famous doctor called Dr. Stuart McGill. He's a back doctor. He's an academic doctor rather than a clinical doctor, although he moved into doing lots of clinical work because he was so good at what he did. And he focused on back pain, and he came up with something called the McGill Big Three. And how he got them is looked at pretty much every gym exercise out there that's been invented by trainers and whatever, and he got people to he got his volunteers, his students, trying to get some credits, I presume. He stuck these little electrodes in them to see muscle activation and the stresses on the vertebrae while he did all these exercises, and he came up with 3 that were very good but with low stress on the back, and yet we were getting the whole range of muscles that hold up the back to work. And I'm going to be showing them in this video now. I did it in the gym, these exercises on video, but there was lots of music and noise in the background, so I'll do this sort of in silence, as it were. I'll get rid of the sound on the video I'm about to show you, and show you McGill's Big Three, which you can see anyway. Now, on top of the Big Three, and he's when he talks about it, Stuart talks about scoliosis, he said, "Oh, go and do the squat exercises." But actually, I think his back pain exercises are better for scoliosis than the squat exercises. And his back pain exercises are all about sort of like, as it were, building an internal brace rather than external brace, where the brace is there to push your back into the right direction. Far better to have your own body do that. And his exercise is very good. It is internal bracing exercises, and so that's what I think is the way to go forward. So pretty much all the exercises I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you his Big Three, but he also then talks about other exercises, which I'm going to show you as well. He talks about the suitcase walk, where you kind of do a short walk, carry the weight in one side, and it strengthens the muscles on the other side when you swap over and stuff. And then with cable machines, you don't twist, but you have a weight that wants you to twist, and you do anti-twisting, which is preventing the twist, and that kind of works then as rotational muscles, that kind of stuff. So that's the exercises I'm now going to show you, and they're the exercises I do. And again, the trick is after you finish them, you don't do so many of them, you're worn down. After you do them, you've just done enough to kind of wake the muscles up, really. And so after you walk home afterwards from the gym, and you kind of feel uplifted, and that's the kind of thing you want to have, many hours of feeling uplifted in the day, rather than that kind of sinking thing. And when you have scoliosis and you walk, there can't commonly be a kind of like a drag of the body. After doing these exercises, you want to be feeling that your gait is better, and you're not sort of collapsing as you're walking. It's more even. So it's almost like waking up exercises rather than strengthening exercises. And it wakes up your bracing muscles, and the bracing muscles then activate when you're doing the rest of your day's life. So it's not about squat. One of the things about some of these squat exercises is they kind of like go on for hours every day, and they dominate your life. These exercises are just your half an hour in the gym type exercises, 3 or 4 times a week. That's when you kind of have to, so they don't dominate your life. They wake up your bracing muscles, so then you, is that enough on its own? Don't know. This is what I do it in conjunction with the ASMI, but I think this is what I would do. If you ask the question, if you were in this position, what would you do? I do those exercises. The other thing is, again going back to the Stuart McGill stuff, the fashion used to be, oh, you've got a bad back of any type, do lots of stretching. Stretching is good. And McGill had worked out by doing investigations into this, that if you have a bad back for pain, and I think it also works for scoliosis as well, your back can be a bit stiffer or a bit more mobile, a bit more lax. And that's okay, that could be your nature, it's what you might be able to do, your sports and your activities in life, you might want to be more stiff or more flexible. But if you have a bad back of intensive pain, I think scoliosis, you need to be a little more stiffer rather than a little more flexible. So it's actually not about stretching, so don't do stretching. Do these stabilizers and you just feel more uplifted, which is what you're usually trying to get the feeling of when you're doing stretching. Stretching has a little bit of a sting in its tail, in as much as it makes you feel good just after you do it. Produces sorts of endorphins, all this kind of stuff, something from what they call the stretch reflex. But actually it's destabilizing the spine, loosening the spine. When your spine, because it's a bad spine, it actually needs a little bit more stability rather than a little bit more looseness. And so you're kind of going south, so afterwards you do your stretchings, the next day you feel worse than you did the day before, although you feel really good just at the time you do them. And that's, so yeah, so it's about stabilizing. It's a little, not walking around like a robot, but you know, in the order of magnitude, just a little bit more stiff than otherwise, and having those bracing muscles kick in. One of the things is you, say for instance, if this is your body, and these stabilizing muscles, if you kind of move your back, they're meant to kick in. If these stabilizing muscles are a bit slow and sluggish, you do the movement and then it kicks in. Then this movement has already caused damage and destabilized your whole back. So it's very much about sort of doing a few exercises that increase your stability a little bit more and wake the muscles up so that when you move, your stabilization muscles are with you and that you don't kind of move and then they catch up at like half a second later. They're right there when you need them there to stabilize your back. That's what I do, and I don't. Do I have any evidence for this? Evidence is I think about £23 million game for clinical trials and everything. So that's what drug companies do. And that sense, you don't really get any evidence on anything. And of course, when you do ever get any evidence on anything, there's a bunch of people who want £23 million back plus profit to the big agenda there. So the idea of evidence has been some sort of pure thing. Yeah, we've seen what happens with the Purdue bribes all over the place, and all come out in more cases and stuff like this. So no, I don't have evidence. I couldn't get a therapist researcher to cross the street to look at this stuff. I could though get a whole team of physiotherapists, researchers to fly out to a all paid expenses conference in Barbados to look at it. But that's a big pharma game. You want the money or you don't, and the flashy stuff that doesn't work. This works as far as I can see. And again, in scoliosis, I think it's caused from a trauma injury. When a glass falls off a table and breaks, your back has a trauma injury. Different glasses break in different ways, and different backs have different ways it can react to the trauma. And one person's back will be like that, and so you can the other person's back will be like that, and it won't be a problem. So if this doesn't work for you, don't do it. It's not a case of no pain, no gain. You've got to keep it way, below the pain threshold, so not as to agitate the back. And so if some or all of these exercises don't work for you, then don't do them or do them less. So don't kind of push it too much. Be nice to yourself. It's about, these are waking up exercises. And then your strengthening happens when you go and use those now woken up stabilizing in a brace during the day. So that's it. So the first exercise is just the standard plank. It's really good for all the muscles around the kind of abdomen area. Now, when you do the plank but kind of go lower like that, I find it kind of starts to work more of the muscles in the upper back, which when you've got scoliosis is a bit more of an issue often, kind of where most of the thoracic curve is. This is the side plank. Now this only really works when you do it on a really thick mat. If you do it on a thin mat, you can make your elbows quite sore. This is the kind of remedial position where you kind of there I am telling you, use a thick mat. And so that's the standard, the position we'd like you to do. And then what you can do, you can join it in and kind of as a part of a flow, do one side plank and then the other side. And yes, you do both sides of the side plank. No idea what I'm whittering on about at this stage in the game. It's basically talking about getting those muscles that uplift you to kind of wake up, basically. This is what's known as bird dog. Now, the muscles that hold you up and kind of pull you back in the back bend, called extensor muscles, extend you. They only really work properly when there's a little bit of movement, and hence this is why this is not an isometric exercise with a bit of movement. Here I'm doing a little square to kind of vary it and get the neurological things kicking off, i.e. getting the nerves used to a bit of movement up there. So we've done the plank, which isn't a Dr. Stewart one. The side plank, which there we have a plank again, and a low plank, and so there's a side plank again, and that's the remedial position if you're not too good at the plank until you're ready to do that. And then you can kind of do it as part of a continual flow sort of thing. There's the bird dog again. There's the drawing the squares, one way and then the other. Okay, this is where it's like the sit-up that isn't a sit-up. So what I'm saying there is, if you do it on the mattress, which is a good idea, first thing in the morning and last thing at night, use it kind of half fist, but if you're on a kind of more flat mattress, just put your hand flat underneath the small of your back. Breathe in to get that, what they call intra-abdominal pressure. So it's like when you're standing on Coke cans that are full, compared to standing on Coke cans that are, being opened. And then you do the world's smallest sit-up, as you can see there. But what you do is you breathe in, get that pressure in the thing, hold your breath out, as it were, and then you brace your muscles as if somebody's going to punch you in the stomach, and then you do the world's smallest sit-up. When you have two weights in your hand, even light weights, what's happening is this weight is balancing out this weight, and there's kind of like compressive force in the back. Not a bad idea. But when you have just one weight in the hand, to hold yourself up, it's the back muscles on this side that are holding you up. And when you have it on this side, instead of being the counterweight being here, the back muscles work extra to hold you up. And when you have scoliosis, those back muscles working to hold you up is what you really kind of want to stimulate a bit. So there's something called a suitcase walk. So what you do is you get a weight, and you can make sure you don't end up doing this with it. What you do is you get yourself up. I actually can prefer to go on your toes. I just find it's a better angle for the sacrum. So you're not having such a heavy weight that you can't get on your toes. So on your toes, and then you do a little walk. And then you swap around. Again, you do both sides, and when you do the side plank, you do both sides of these things. So it's not in squat, they like the one-sided exercise and only one-sided exercise. I really find it works best when you do it both. The problem is if you do that a lot, one day you're going to drop it on your foot and hurt your foot. So what they do have, they have these things, which are gym bags. Now this will still hurt your foot. I'm using 20 kilograms here because I'm a grown-up man. Maybe it's only 5 kilograms for you, I don't know what age you are, but it's just about sort of, and what you want to be doing is nice and straight, and then if you drop this, you might hurt your foot, but you're less likely to break it. And so these gym bags would be very, very good for that one time. There we go, swap it round. And what happens here is when you finish, you're behind it. just I'm going to show you something else as well. To get that on there is very awkward, because I'd classically get here, and then have to lean over to get it up, which is bad for the back to lean over. So what you do is you do without twisting the body, twisting the back, you swing the hips, and you kick it up. Little tricks like that can help with the back. So after you've done that, the back muscles here have had a good workout, or wake up. The back muscles here have had a good wake up. And when you walk home, you'll be able to feel like, oh, you know when you go ice skating, or roller skating, you're wearing the heavy boots. Somebody behind you, and you're wearing the heavy boots, ice skating, but when you finish, you walk down the street, you feel like your legs feel light as a feather. After doing a small bit of the suitcase exercise, when you walk home, again, you feel, your back feels easier. And that's what we want to have lots of hours of the day walking with a scoliosis patient, feeling light and uplifted rather than that kind of drag down, because that's what's going to support the back. Let's go look at a bit of stretching. Now, stretching is kind of overrated. Swing like that can just be a little bit, can be quite good, but I'm not sure how good it is. So do it or don't do it, I'm not a big fan. But what can be even, I think it's far better stuff. When you have a bad back, you see, a back can be mobile and loose, like a yoga, or it can be stiff like a weightlifter. When you have any type of bad back, if you have back pain, it's generally best to be slightly more stiff and slightly looser. And you go to lots of, oh, you've got back pain, go do some yoga or Pilates. You're probably off better doing more stabilising exercises, stiffy exercises, rather than sort of loosening ones. So to that extent, by sort of doing, if you have such a facility like this, instead of going for the thing where you're kind of stretching the back, go for stuff more where you're lifting yourself up a bit, and then holding yourself really stiff so the whole body in coordination. All the back musculature and the shoulders get a kind of a stabilising workout. That's what's kind of needed a lot in scoliosis, a little bit more stability. You don't have to be huge, it's just like shifting it a little bit so you're a bit more stable than you would otherwise be, a little bit stiffer. So that's those two. When you go driving in the snow, you can drive straight and accelerate and then decelerate, which is brake, and it's reasonably okay. And in the snow, you can turn. You go left or you go right. But if you try and accelerate and turn at the same time, you'll end up in a spinning all over the place. So you do one, or you do the other. And the back works in a similar way. The back can be flexible and movable, or the back can be stiff and pick up weights and manage tasks. Both are within the back's capability to do. But what you don't do is you don't do both. You'd never bend over and pick a weight up like that, because it's a disaster for the back. You can bend over. It's not the best way to bend over because you are lifting up half your body weight, which can be quite a lot. It's usually a lot better to lean over from the hip, and if you want to pick up something from the floor, do what the golfers do, get something and put the leg up in the air so the back is not actually moving at all, it's nice and stiff. But it also works not just with picking up weights where you don't want to be bending, but also with rotation and side movement as well. So when we had that suitcase we just did, essentially people say, well, will strengthen your muscles to take you from side to side. If I had picked up that weight and treated my back muscles like a biceps and started going backwards and forwards with the weight, and I did this, I would wreck my back really, really quickly with the weight on. The way to strengthen the back is different from how you strengthen the arms. It's a lot more isometric. So what I was doing there, I had the backs stiff, I had the weight on that side, trying to push me down, and the exercise came from preventing going down to the side rather than doing the movement. And that's what the back's meant to do. It's meant to hold you stiff while the rest of your body does the movement. And it also works in rotation as well. One of the best, so when you can turn to the left and turn to the right. But if you had a weight and you did that, you'd be in trouble. But to strengthen those rotational muscles for when you do use them, it's a good idea to do a rotational exercise where you don't move, but there's a straight, you're preventing a rotation movement. And the cable machines in the gym are very good to do that, where you get hold of, use the cable machines, we'll show you in a second, and you again use one hand, keep yourself stiff, and that's stop. Your body would otherwise do that, and your muscles are preventing that from happening, the rotational ones, by holding on to the bits and pieces. And again, with scoliosis, there's a big problem with the rotation of the most of scoliosis is a compression and a twist. It's not really even much of a lateral thing. By the time you untwist it and decompress it with the ASMI machine, there's not actually very much lateral. It looks like a curve on the X-ray, which is like a 2D shadow, like a finger puppet shadow. In 3D, scoliosis is very, very in and out and all over the place. So we're going to have a quick look at the cable machines, where I do some exercise on that, and I show you not moving, but are going against the rotational part. So one of my favourites is this cable machine. One-handed cables is super good. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold your back stiff, and you're going to do that sort of stuff into your body, and maybe slightly to the side. But you don't twist your body at the same time. It's all about sort of you keep still, and your body wants to go that way, but this part of the body is stopping it. And then you swap it around the other way. And you can do the same thing to the side. And you do that like a medium level. And the trick is you do a small to a medium amount of those exercises, so that when you walk home now, you've warmed up. You're not tired and exhausted. You're like, okay, I'm more awake now, working up. Keep on doing that, and your body gets used to. And then the exercise.